social circle or fostering a welcoming environment for everyone. Maddie's kindness, leadership, and strong sense of responsibility make her a role model among her peers. Another one of her teachers shared that she exemplifies the qualities we strive to encourage in all of our students. She is hardworking, responsible, and always willing to help others. She meets expectations without needing reminders and approaches every task with a positive attitude. Her peers described her as funny, nice, laid back, energetic, inclusive, a leader, and loving. Qualities that shine through in both her academics and her extracurricular involvement. As she looks ahead to high school, Maddie is excited, but admits she's a little nervous about adjusting to the new environment. However, she's confident she'll find her way just as she has at DCMS. When she grows up, she hopes to attend Ball State and become a counselor, though she's still exploring which type of counseling she'd like to pursue. She is considering coming back to work at DCMS, which I offered for her to do one day. A fun fact about Maddie is that she is a talented singer. She sings in the school choir and on her church's worship team, and her favorite songs to sing are country hits by artists like Morgan Wallen and Megan Maroney. If she could master any skill instantly, she said that she'd love to learn how to sew so she could put together her own sweaters and sweatshirts. And if she could switch places with anyone for the day, she would step into Caitlin Clark's shoes because of her incredible shooting skills and the positive impact she's had on women's sports. Maddie's dedication, leadership, and kindness make her an invaluable part of the DCMS community. We are proud to recognize her as our Student of the Month and can't wait to see all that she accomplishes in the future. Congratulations, Maddie.
Congratulations, Maddie, and good luck tonight. Mrs. Perkins, if you would introduce our North Elementary Student of the Month, please.
Good evening. I'm happy to introduce Leland Chasteen, North Elementary Student of the Month for January. Leland is the daughter of Elizabeth and Kyle Chasteen, and she is a first grade student in Mrs. Marchand's class. Leland's favorite part of her day at North Elementary is recess, more specifically indoor recess, when she can spend her time building things with blocks. She loves learning math and getting to do math activities. PE is her favorite related arts class, and last week when they were learning about the Winter Olympics, she really enjoyed the ski jumping station. If Leland could change one thing about North Elementary to make it a better place, she would make herself a preschool teacher. At home, Leland has one older brother and one younger brother. It seems that she and her older brother like to play tricks on each other, which is fun, but she is not so happy about the fact that he sometimes eats her Kit Kats. She told me that she likes playing with her jumping dinosaur. She assured me it wasn't real, but rather a bouncing toy shaped like a dinosaur that has ears you can hold on to so you don't fall off. Sounded like fun. If Leland were in charge for the day, she would take her parents, her cousin Daxton, and her little brother Fenway to the pool. Afterwards, she would go to Olive Garden to eat, but she would stop and get Taco Bell for her mom. Right now, Leland is playing basketball, but she has also played baseball, soccer, and softball, which is her favorite. She informed me that she is a good hitter, likes playing all the positions, and is super fast. She credits her speed to eating healthy food like steak and crawfish, and only eating candy 5 days a week, not every day. When I asked her what she liked best about her parents, she simply answered, "I love them." She also added that she likes that they clean up after her when her room is a mess of clothes and toys. It shouldn't be a surprise that when Leland grows up, she wants to be a teacher, since that is the one thing that would make North Elementary a better place. She wants to work with preschool-age children so that she can play with them and teach them cool things. Mrs. Marchand nominated Leland and had the following to say about her. Leland is a sweet girl. She is a hard worker and puts forth her best effort every day. She loves first grade and volunteers answers often during class discussions. She is a friend to everyone and is willing to help any of her classmates. She can often be found helping a classmate in her quiet, gentle ways without anyone even asking for help. She will tie a shoe, help someone unpack or pack up, play with a new student at recess, or simply talk to a classmate who is needing a friend. She sets a great example every day of the warrior way. That's just who she is. These qualities will take her far in life and I can't wait to see what she does in the next few years at DCSC. For these reasons, I am proud to nominate Leland Chasteen as our North Elementary January Student of the Month. Leland, you are truly deserving of this recognition. Congratulations on being our Student of the Month.
Congratulations, Leland. And Mrs. Hollingsworth is going to introduce our South Elementary Student of the Month.
South Elementary is proud to introduce Mr. Otto Heller as this month's Student of the Month. Otto is a student in Mrs. Swartz's third grade class. Otto lives with his mom, dad, and brother Asa. He also has a dog named Poppy, and his brother has a turtle named Ricochet. Otto has many interests outside of school. Otto loves to draw and would like to become an artist when he grows up. He loves to draw anime and would love to own his own shop and sell all of his paintings. Otto also loves to play video games like Fortnite and play football. He plays quarterback on offense and a linebacker on defense. He also plays baseball. His biggest hit was here in Danville at Barnett Field at Ellis Park, where he hit the fence. His favorite sport to play is actually basketball. He plays point guard, and if his art career doesn't work out, he wants to play in the NBA. According to Otto, South Elementary is a lot of fun. He loves math class, and when they get to complete a creative writing off of a picture that Mrs. Swartz gives them. He also thinks every special is a lot of fun. If Otto could spend the day however he wanted, he would first ensure we got math class in, and then we would all go to the gym for a school-wide dodgeball tournament. When asked who's been the best influence on his life, Otto said his mom. He said that his mom has taught him to be kind, considerate, and he loves when they pray together. He also contributes his athletic grit to Jamar Chase and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Close-ish? Okay. So they are kind but also fierce athletes. Otto was nominated by our STEM teacher, Mrs. Schmitz. Mrs. Schmitz had the following to say about Otto. I'd like to nominate Otto Heller as Student of the Month for his outstanding ability to lead by example. Otto consistently follows class expectations, displaying responsibility and respect during classroom activities. He's willing to work with peers and contribute positively to group work. Additionally, Otto remains engaged and strives to do his best. His hard work and positive attitude makes him a role model for others. Mrs. Swartz agreed with Mrs. Schmitz and said the following. He is quiet but leads by example. He has always displayed respect for his classmates and peers alike. He consistently listens to directions, participates in class, and always puts forth 100% effort into everything he does. He's not only a leader who sets shining examples for others in the classroom, but also a leader on the football field as a quarterback for his team. His hard work, respectfulness, and leadership qualities make him an excellent choice for Student of the Month. Congratulations, Otto. We're awful proud of you.
Congratulations, Otto. And Dr. Hammond's going to introduce our High School Student of the Month.
This month, it is a privilege to recognize Gilbert Barwar Adum as our Student of the Month. Gilbert is a sophomore, and he has made a significant impression on his business teachers, Mrs. Hunt and Mr. Callis. Mrs. Hunt wrote, Gilbert is an extremely responsible student, always respectful to his teachers and peers, and is always willing to help his classmates. Gilbert will often send me questions over the weekend to ensure he understands a coding assignment or ask for guidance to ensure he completes his assignment on time. He has grown in confidence in his JavaScript skills and is also advocating for himself when he needs help. Gilbert moved to Danville from Ghana in the fall of 2023. In the short time that he has lived here, he's made a tremendously positive impression here at our school. He shared that he enjoys taking science classes and hopes someday to pursue a career in the field of medicine. He shared that he admires his mom quite a bit. He said that his mom does a great job of telling him what he can expect from life, and she always gives him good advice. One thing that separates Gilbert from many students is that he enjoys learning new things. Gilbert indicated that he really likes to learn new things about technology. Gilbert, may you always remember that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. And it is our hope that you can continue to look at the world through the lens of amazement and wonder. Congratulations on being our Student of the Month.
Congratulations, Gilbert, and to all of our students of the month. And again, thank you to the parents for raising such great kids. And thank you to our teachers for nominating these fine young students for Students of the Month recognition.
All right, next item on the agenda, student commendations. Dr. Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now we have some more outstanding students to recognize tonight with some of our student athletes. You're in tonight, huh?
I am.
Okay, all right. Well, we are pleased to have with us this evening several of our football team members. I think it was last month we recognized all-state honors, and tonight we're here to recognize all-state honors again, but this time it's going to be academic all-state. Even better, makes you more money in the long run. So this evening, and just for background, the young men here are selected through the Indiana Football Coaches Association. The association votes on these young men by looking at their academic record and other attributes they have to be on the academic all-state team. So Mrs. Harvey is going to call them up.
Carson Corwin. And you guys can stay up here so we can get pictures. Sutton Fullwider. Garrett Hackelman. Colby Harvey.
For the future, this is just like diplomas.
Cole Miller. Matthew Pickle. Carter Pruitt. And Jay Scrafton. Coach Comer would like me to clarify that this is a record-setting number because we have had 8 before, but that was under the old criteria, which was a 3.4, and they recently bumped that up to a 3.5. So all these guys have at least a 3.5 or higher. So we are super proud of that.
Gentlemen, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to congratulate you and just wish you the best in the future with your academic pursuits.
All right, the next item on the agenda is community input, and no one has signed up, but if anyone has any to offer, they may step to the podium and state your name and address. Okay, seeing as no one's interested, we'll take a short pause in our meeting. For those of you who would like to leave the building, you're welcome to. However, we'd love to have you stay. But I saw Adam somewhere. What happened to him?
Adam was down there.
Yes.
I saw Adam for sure.
Okay.
The horn there.
How's your basketball game?
Oh, was it the basketball game?
Thanks.
That's
Wow.
really
That's a ways down there.
Coming down the hall?
There's Dave.
All the way down? Are the double doors open?
Do we need to? Someone shut them earlier because they were making some noise in the hallway, apparently.
No, I'm
Oh, you mean downstairs?
Probably downstairs.
like the double doors from like, the band area to
Oh.
the cafeteria.
They were when I came in.
They must
They were
be.
open?
Yeah.
Yeah, they must be.
Okay.
All right, moving right along. The next item on our agenda is the construction project update. Dr. Schaefer.
Thank you, Mrs. Cherry. For the board and public's information, we are going to have an update tonight on the building project, and the board had a couple specific questions that we're going to be answering to in regard to the transportation facility. So we have back with us Jonathan Haggerty from Meyer Najum and Adam Wiesner from Barton Covillama. And gentlemen, we will let you take it away. Yeah, and make sure the power button on the side is switched on.
Is there where I should point?
Maybe it is. Hold on.
The yeah, if you need the laser, it should show up on there. It will not show up on there.
Did you do that or did I? I think you did. Did you move the slide or did I on there?
I think you did.
All right. We'll run with it. Well, thank you.
Push up just to make sure.
Yeah, it'll point here.
There we go.
There, is it working?
Yeah, now it is.
Okay.
I think some of this is going. Well, thanks again for having us. Adam and I are excited to talk a little bit more about the projects going on in the district. I know there were some follow-up questions that Dr. Schaefer just mentioned that we're happy to answer as well. And then, as always, when we get to the end, if you guys have questions, we'd love to have a conversation with you all. So, first up is South Elementary. Since the last time I was here at the beginning of December, we have successfully handed over both the kitchen and cafeteria area. I don't know who's all been able to check that out or see some of the pictures, but really cool space for the district. Definitely an improvement both visually and from a performance stance. Unit C was the classroom area that was also handed over. That is your north wing of the pods, if you will. And since winter break, we've moved into Unit A, which is 1/3 of the remaining area of classrooms. And then we also have some work left to go between now and end of summer, which is pretty straightforward. It's the remaining balance of the classrooms, the media center, the public bathrooms, which is kind of the western side of the pods. And then we also have some work alongside with the media center and the gymnasium and corridors to kind of wrap up over summer. Got a few pictures for you. So as I said, the art, you can kind of see the bottom right is a good picture of what's going on in the eating area of the cafeteria. And then as you look at the bottom left, that's on your exterior wall where we poked in new exterior windows. That is your former stage with some cool architectural details with the ceiling panels there as well. So any questions on South Elementary? That was a quick hitter. Perfect.
I will add, the space looks wonderful. And the windows in the cafeteria really enhance that.
Did the wall get fixed that needed to be moved? Was that?
That's a summer project. It will
That's a
be.
Summer.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, on transportation, I'll hit some highlights and hand it over to Adam. So we have successfully delivered a DD budget, which is one step before going out to bid to make sure everything's ducks are in a row, if you will, budgetarily, scope, all the visual exercises, if you will. With that said, we intend to go out to bid right here on April 1st, kind of open those bids at the end of April, and then come to the May board meeting with a request to approve those bids to get started around the end of June to the beginning of July to have that facility open for the calendar year, or school year, 26-27. So it's about a year-long project. I know there were some conversations on the last meeting regarding the mezzanine and such, so I'll let that be transitioned at this point as we go over the floor plan.
Height challenged. All right, good evening. So I think the floor plan is very similar to what I believe Ryan Boland was here and helped present in December, the last time you saw it. There probably have been a couple small changes in the office area, working with Christy and her team to help figure out exactly who should go where, how big things should be. Very minor, but in general, the offices are still here to the south side of the site, training room to the north. A small recent change is we moved a mechanics office more toward the center of the work bays so they'd have better line of sight out into the space at all times. They were on an exterior wall when you saw it before. Another small change is that this bay, where I'm pointing, used to have a little bit more storage in it, part storage, had some more walls in it. We talked about a better use of the space is to give you another overhead door so they can pull another vehicle in there. And it would fit a bus, so technically there's kind of 5 work bays right there. 2 of them you can drive through, 1 of them you can pull in and pull out, and then of course the wash bay. So you still have part storage, you still have maintenance space for the fluid room, the fluid piping system, the power washer and those systems for the wash bay, but now there is a 5th kind of work bay here in the middle. There is a mezzanine above. The entire building is about 18,200 square feet. Of that, the mezzanine is about 2,200. So the mezzanine sits above where you see this big bank of restrooms. It sits above this bay. The office bay is the lower height. Then the rest of the building jumps up all the way back to accommodate the height of all the overhead doors. And that then gives us an easy spot to put this mezzanine. So the current building has multiple small mezzanines. This building is bigger, more things, has another mezzanine which is a little bigger than the current square footage. And it does store, I believe you have a kind of a list that Christy and Richard provided in your board packet that helps give you the details of things that are there. Auto parts, bus seats, everything that goes with the transportation facility is stored up there where it cannot be in the floor space because of all the tools, the lifts, the vehicles, everything that's down below. So there is some storage down below, but the mezzanine provides quite a bit more up above. I have a couple renderings too. I can pause at any time if there's questions, but we have a couple renderings to go with it. Up, push down. So site plan, it's the same image, but the plan on the right is it's a little bit more zoomed in to help show you the circulation around the site. So the building sits here, the front faces the middle school, it faces east. There is room on the site to expand the building in the future if it would ever be needed. Parking in front for bus drivers and public, and then all the gray area you see is concrete, and that is all fenced in all the way around the lot to the south. So that's all secure. The asphalt is bus parking. The gray concrete to the bottom is a fueling station. There is an alternate bid there. There's propane in the base bid, and then diesel and everything else, the bigger part of the fueling station as an alternate. Hopefully that can be accepted on bid day. And then, yeah, the plan on the left is the same plan, like I said, just a little bit further out to show you more of the surroundings. There is a small detention area. There's an alternate for this extension road that will basically line up with the gravel that's there now to take you south to the field. We've been working with Matt on the site for security and gates, who can go where, those sorts of things. I think we all have that dialed in. Then we have a couple of renderings. So this one is if you're up on the mezzanine looking down into the work bays. So again, you have these 2 drive through, as you can kind of see the image of the bus here, could drive straight through the building. And then that 5th bay where you're seeing a pickup truck in the back. But that 5th bay that I discussed adding back there. And then kind of the opposite view as if you're standing in that 5th bay looking up. So there's 2 stairs up and down for egress from the mezzanine, but it would be full of storage shelving for the parts, the bus seats, all those things that help to support the building. Working with the maintenance staff, the mechanics I should say, on how they want the tables, everything laid out between the buses. That's where all the fluid reels, the power reels, everything goes to help them do their work. Downstairs, tire storage is kind of in front of that 5th bay, and then this wall is that parts room that you saw on the floor plan behind it. So this is the last image I have, but I can definitely back up or...
Adam, did you have a breakout cost for the mezzanine itself?
I think we tried to identify, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, $180,000 to actually build the mezzanine as it sits there. But it is, I mentioned, about 2,200 square feet. The cost per square foot on the first floor, the building in general, is just over $400. So that would be close to $750,000 if you were to build that first floor square footage. So we already have, let me back up just a couple. So the walls that are around the restrooms and this whole kind of work bay, there's mechanical spaces, electrical, staff locker rooms, restrooms. All these are concrete block walls. They're there for durability, just like we would do in a school. They support hollow core planks for the mezzanine, so they're already load bearing. The walls are already there, so we're just setting the planks on top. So it's pretty cost effective to build that square footage. The rest of the construction inside the pre-engineered metal building, where we can use studs and drywall like in the offices, we would. But in this space, and of course the whole shop, such high abuse, we would use concrete block walls, so that just lends itself to hollow core planks. And then you have a mezzanine at much less cost than you would if you're building it at grade on first floor.
Is there anything in the design for getting heavy things up without two guys having to bend over and try and get them up the stairs?
There is, and I don't know if you can see it in the renderings. It's kind of where this is, a person is standing in this view. We have a 8-foot wide horizontal sliding gate as part of the guardrail system. So a fork truck could lift anything up, slide it right in, whether it's pallets or whatever it's on, just set it on the mezzanine. And then it's just a manual sliding gate, very simple, locked when you don't need to.
Do you currently have a forklift? Just one? So once transportation and maintenance separate facilities, does that mean we're going to have to buy a second forklift?
We would have to provide some sort of a tool to do that, yes.
The alternate is to put a hoist up there. We just think a forklift would probably give us better utility.
How are you heating it?
There's a variety of heating devices, I should say. The work bay has a large gas-fired heaters that you see that run horizontally in very similar buildings. And then there's more traditional air handling systems that do the offices and the spaces kind of underneath where people are. But yeah, the shops have real big gas-fired heaters that run across the ceiling and kind of push heat down.
The radiant heat.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory, on the mezzanine, on the right-hand side, just at the top of the stairs, there's a set of doors there.
Yeah, there's a...
What's behind there?
There's another mechanical space upstairs, and then there's also a technology closet, a technology room to support the building. So not all of that 2,200 is storage. Part of it is mechanical and service space. So there's also some downstairs, and there's some upstairs. Just because of the size of the building, we can't have one unit to serve all those spaces.
So it's not being built out for office space in any way?
It is not. You would have to have an elevator at that point if you put people up there.
Okay.
So it is not designed that way for office space. It's storage space.
Okay.
Mhm.
You putting air conditioning in it too, in the shop?
Not in the shop, in the office spaces, but not in the shop. Big fans, overhead doors, but trying to keep the cost down. It's a big volume of space.
Right. I'm just making sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. North Elementary.
All right, so similar to the transportation facility, coming back to North, as many of you remember, this was an alternate to the high school project. It was placed on hold. It was not deleted. It was just nothing more than put on hold for budgetary consideration as the school continued to navigate funding sources. We're happy to kind of announce that that has come back to life. I know Richard Land is extremely happy to hear about these VUBs getting released. So I'll skip to the bottom bullet point because it's the most immediate. So the two pods, north and south at north, they have horizontal units underneath the windows that need to be torn out and replaced with a vertical unit ventilator. That's what VUV stands for. So it's basically a self-contained air conditioning and heating unit that goes in the room and ducted across the ceiling. So those are already on order. There's 12 of them. So based on the lead time, we got those released last month. And what we've done as a strategy is we've talked to all the trade partners, and they all bid it as an ultra, as I stated back in February of last year, which is hard to believe it's been a year ago. And they've all agreed to hold their numbers. There's been a few that were slight changes for inflation and things like that, but nothing crazy. and we're writing change orders for all the work aside from mechanical. We feel comfortable that we're going to get a lot of attraction on this as a standalone package as opposed to a combination of the high school. Maybe find some smaller vendors to be interested in that to bring down the cost. And that is going to go out to bid or have bid opening here on 2/25 with the hope of kind of presenting to you guys by March what those results are, which would then release the full package at North Elementary. So that's VAV mechanical equipment throughout the building. The gym has some floor finishes. The green bathroom, if you know where I'm talking about between the two pods, will no longer look that way and hopefully not be green anymore. I'm going to blame Adam if that's what he picked. But nonetheless, the full scope in its entirety at North, the intention is to bring that back to life now. So compliments to your team for allowing that to be just put on hold but brought back to life. And Adam's team and ours will work through phasing at North to get that thing all wrapped up between now and next fall. So it'll be kind of done in phases, especially over the 2 summers. Any questions on North before we go on? Perfect. So I'm going to bring up Nick Phipps, project manager for the high school, to talk more of the day-to-day operations that have happened over the last 2 months at the high school. Down. Got it.
Bring up the floor plan to kind of help speed this along a little bit. But yeah, so construction team and trade partners have been very busy the past 60 days since we last met. So right now, looking at the new pool area, you see here in green, we're continuing with the concrete foundations. We started the concrete foundations on the new bleachers over here on the west side of the pool. We started a lot of the slab on grade work, so the concrete has been poured for the new corridor running through the pool and the weight room. We're working on the slab on grade currently in the locker room in this east corridor. The pool underground plumbing, that is ongoing right now with the pool contractor and our plumbing contractor, and the pool weight room steel joists and metal decking. If you've seen that, all the steel joists have now been set and all the metal decking is in place over the entire pool area. We set the detail and install this south CMU wall currently. The rough carpentry for the clear story, that's been ongoing as well. The foundations for the new weight room, that started, so we're hoping to get the CMU laid up and that joist and metal decking installed here in the next month or so. We're going to be working on the overhead mechanicals and the plumbing and electrical, mainly inside the pool area, so we can get this painted. We got the pool contractor coming back. We're going to end up installing the perimeter gutter around the pool and the pool equipment area as well. We'll be working on that area. The phase 2B, the classroom addition, this area has come along a lot. So actually last week we actually had the new air handler fired up. So that was a huge milestone to get that one up and running, just in terms of the mechanicals of where they're at in the school and how far we had to run to get all the new hydronic piping and everything over in that space. So that was a huge milestone to get that up and running. And then Unit A is about a week behind, and then we'll fire up those air handler units and we'll start conditioning that space as well. So in terms of the classroom addition, we're working on final paint. We started the ceramic tile in the bathroom and the water alcove this week. We started some flooring prep in here as well. Casework is going to be here in about a month, and we'll start getting the flooring down in these classrooms. But the classroom addition, and then basically the last phase that we'll end up having to do is this summer we will blow through the existing wall for the new corridors, and then we'll make that tie-in so that we'll have this new corridor space open by the next school season. The administration addition, which is Unit A, which is your new main entrance, and clinic, nurse area, counseling. So right now we're finishing drywall. We probably have another couple weeks on that. We're going to start working on painting, ceiling grid. The storefront's all been in place. We'll start working on the casework as well. That'll follow Unit B. And then we'll start finishing out this area. So there's a lot of work and detail work in this clear story. So this area is probably about 2 weeks behind the classroom addition right now. But yeah, both areas right now are trending favorably in the schedule. 1B, the existing pool area and locker rooms. So we're probably 80% done with demolition in that area. We're removing the old pool deck right now. All the locker room walls and everything have been taken out. We are installing the new masonry walls in here for the new band and choir kind of classroom areas right now. And then we're looking probably in about the beginning of March, we will infill the existing pool area and we'll start bringing these main areas up as well. The phase 12, which was kind of, I guess, here. This was the old shop area, so we needed this space for the new hydronic piping that runs down through here for the chillers, because your new mechanical and electrical room sit right back here. So this area, the masonry walls have actually started today. So we'll get this in, and then we'll get the new piping installed, and then casework will follow. But this area right now, it's not the highest priority right now, but the biggest thing is just getting the mechanicals in so we can get these chillers fired up in April. Tennis courts, concrete sidewalks, and landscaping, those are ongoing. I think we're gonna start grading off the sidewalks this week, and then we'll start installing that here in the next couple weeks. The athletic building and ticket booth, all the concrete slab on grade's been completed. We started the masonry walls. We're probably 25, 40%, I guess, in terms of the CMU and the interior CMU. The new joists for that show up March 3rd, so we'll have that get set. We'll get the roof put on here early March for the athletic building, and then everything to follow after that with the ticket booths. Softball field you've driven by. We did start stripping the topsoil today, so we'll start getting all the under drains. We'll get it cement stabilized, and we're actively working on the softball diamond. So right now the goal is to get the new turf at softball installed right after the football field. So it'll be roughly like August by the time we actually start getting the turf put on. But that area is going as well. Go back to some of the
Before you leave that slide, can I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
1B in the old pool area, what's being done to mitigate the water problem that was there to begin with that drove us to need a new pool?
Right now, we're still investigating it, so we're gonna end up scanning the existing pool to see if there's any voids underneath the actual pool shell to see if all the subgrade is still there. But right now, we're actively still trying to figure out a solution of what we're gonna do with the groundwater that's still active.
And then how does that investigation then also work to make sure it mitigates that the water doesn't then travel over to the new pool? And we have the same problem 10, 15 years down the road in the new pool. I mean, you're building the green and the orange connect, and you know how water works.
Yeah, there's currently the existing perimeter drain that's going to stay active around the pool, and that goes to the north side where the existing stormwater.
I understand the
station-
drain,
Yeah.
all the existing there, but all that draining did not work to keep, turned into a crack. Ultimately moved us to build a new pool. The recommendation was the new pool be built right next to the old pool where the water problem was. I guess ultimately I'm looking to find out what sort of guarantee are you offering that we're not going to have a water problem with this new pool or water coming up further up in the ground area of 1B. It doesn't seem like, I mean, you knew that there was a water problem there when you developed the plans for the site.
So, similar to 1B, the new pool also has a drainage system around it and things like that. So there's also well points, as Nick mentioned, in 1B that right now part of the investigation is this ground penetrating radar to kind of understand what is underneath the slab. We were actually just discussing with Adam prior to coming here about 2 hours ago about what does it look like if that sump pit that's currently there, pumping it out to the north, remains to allow for that kind of static pressure of water to continue to leave the building footprint. But the reality is there's always going to be groundwater in any building in Hendricks County at that depth. So there are provisions within the job and the design that Adam's team and his consultants did to help mitigate it, but you're never going to fully eradicate water from existing 15 feet below elevation, if that makes sense.
So were the costs to mitigate this built into the original $150 million master campus plan?
I think yes, but I think we also are exploring if we need to look at alternative solutions to do above and beyond on what we have located under 1B once now we've gotten into demo. I think it's fair to say we're still in that investigation, but there was original plans of how to mitigate it. We are now investigating if that's going to be sufficient or not, if that makes sense. Now that it's actually dug up and excavated, so.
Again, concerned that we're going to end up with a similar problem to a new pool area years down the road.
Understood.
Can I ask what kind of landscape's going to be around the tennis courts?
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
lawn. We don't.
Okay, no
yeah,
bushes, trees,
correct.
okay, just because I don't want it blowing all over the courts.
Will the tennis courts be ready for the start of the tennis season in March
I'll
after
let
spring
Nick
break?
talk about kind of the corrective actions going on. You want to kind of explain that?
Yeah, so we noticed the product that was installed last September in summer on the existing courts and the new courts, we had the manufacturer come out and it was, the product just failed. So they actually started grinding on the courts today. So it's gonna take basically 2 to 3 days to grind 6 courts. And then the product we're gonna resubmit a new product. It'll be the same color red, just it'll be Seal Master. But the only issue with it is that it has to be 50 degrees and rising. So as long as weather is favorable, we will have both courts open, hopefully by the time spring break is over. So at least for once we actually grind them down, even for the existing or the new, we will still stripe them so that the tennis courts are accessible.
Nick, just a point of clarification, we're only talking about the red portions, correct? That need to be redone?
Correct.
And it will still be usable when that's ground down. It won't look as nice, but it'll be usable, that's correct?
Yes.
And is that on just the old courts or the new courts as
It
well?
was, the same product was installed on both courts, it was
So
same
you're
failure.
doing all the red area of all courts.
Correct. Yep.
So there's a chance that we may not have any courts ready for the start of tennis season if the weather doesn't cooperate.
Court, you would have access to the courts, it's just not gonna be as pretty, but they will be striped and they would be usable. Until we actually get the color coating on there, it's just we have to wait for the weather to be in our favor.
What kind of kickback do we get because the product was chosen that did not hold up as expected, and now our tennis teams may be impacted by this? When we thought that we had done that work last fall so that we'd be ready to go for a season kicking off in the spring.
So I think the first tennis practice is March 17th. I know the students were out there when it was warm, so, I mean, in theory, you would still be able to use the courts. It's just until we can actually get the weather to put the new coating on.
I think what he's asking is, who's taking care of it? Are they warranting that work?
Correct, yes. Yeah, there's no cost
Okay.
on your end, sorry.
And then what is the warranty on that product after it's in place?
I believe it's a year.
I think it's also worth pointing out that the new product that's going to be put on is the better of the two products. When we were originally putting this coating on, that's where the installer said it was kind of a streaky color, and that's where we started to see some of it coming through. And that was I guess, a thinner material.
Correct.
The material they're going to come back with this time is going to be the better, more thick material, so we should not have this issue moving forward.
So hearing that said, Corey, should I have a concern that that's an example of where we value engineered part of this plan to be able to get it done, and yet we're putting on a product that shouldn't have been put on in the first place?
I mean,
The short answer is no. The product that was specified is, in my opinion, standard. We at no point considered changing the product, and I'm sure on the design side they never considered it either, but it was never VE. But I think this is just an unfortunate circumstance of it just failed, and the manufacturers come out twice and volunteered to improve it with a new product that is of a higher cost at no additional cost to you. It is of an inconvenience, and we apologize if that's something you're dealing with, but they've acted in short order to come out and start grinding immediately. And weather is the obstacle, and unfortunately, as you guys are aware in Indiana, it's just not favorable to do it right now. And if we had them do it, there would be no warranty, and there would probably be more failure.
and I would say what we went with was a standard product. It wasn't, we went with a sub-product. But what we're going to get is the premium product, where we would have paid a premium for it if we had elected to use that from the get-go. So, no, it's not that we cut costs or that we tried to cut a corner or anything there. This would have been a standard product that should have held up that just had a failure. And so because of that, we're actually going to get the better product that would have cost us even more money had we elected for that.
And back to the pool area, when are you projecting to have the pool area available for use?
1B or 1?
One.
Q4 of this year.
Excuse me?
Say that again.
You mean two
Quarter
of
four.
ne-
Quarter 4 of 2025.
Okay, so we're
so
back
like
on track then.
December.
We are meeting as a team, and we just had a meeting with Dr. Schaefer and Mr. Herbert this afternoon, and we are still working through the schedule, but we are working towards solutions with the additional weather that we've incurred in January specifically.
That was rough, but I mean, let's face it, all fall was perfect weather to be getting ahead of the project.
So when you say quarter 4 of this year, does that mean the first day of quarter 4 or the last day of quarter 4? Because the last day of quarter 4 puts us right at the turn of first quarter of 2026.
Yep. No, I'm aware of that, and we are still working.
So your
diligently.
answer's got a pretty broad range in there in reference to.
I understand that, but no, I am not prepared to give you a specific date based on the conversations we've had in the last couple hours. And I know that's not the exact answer you want, but diligence is being put towards finding a solution to get you that firm date. So
Yeah, there are contractual pieces that could be on the further end of that contractually. The construction team, they're going to do their best to mitigate some of that time and then try to get done sooner than what the contract calls for. So that window would put us somewhere in that quarter 4, which would be probably anywhere between sometime in November to sometime in December. Our home swim meets don't begin until the middle of December. So I know they're going to do their dead level best to get ahead of that on the outside and hopefully better than that on the inside if we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
do you guys have this? Do you want to go over this at all, or just knowing that this is the latest version of what we reviewed in December is that good? I don't want to bore people with a bunch of numbers. But
Still projected to come in under budget, correct?
correct. There has not been any significant changes to the budget other than things within projections, like bringing North back in since the last time we were here.
So just jokingly, when you say it's going to come in under budget, does it have a widest span as, say, fourth quarter of 2025 in terms of coming in under budget?
We'll report back in Q4 2027 with the final say.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All three of
Thank
you
you.
for coming this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, next item on the agenda, State of the Corporation Address, Dr. Schaefer.
I did explain to the gentleman here how fortunate they were to get to go first in this process and not second, so.
Thank you.
While we're switching over projections, each year we provide a State of the Corporation address. And that just kind of state where are we and mark this point in time, and also look ahead and look backwards a little bit, how the last year went, some things we're looking forward to in the next year. And we are going to move. There's a lot of information here. Board members, you have that in your packet, and we are going to continue to move through, though, and work right through the presentation. Or I don't know if that's, did we move something over there? Because I'm not hitting the, here we go. Yeah, we're on.
Did you move a water bottle?
I didn't touch it.
Did you move your bottle? Slide.
Jonathan broke it.
I'll try and move it up a little bit too, see if that, there we go. What we're going to work through here quickly are some of the assumptions, the vision, our key performance indicators, and our organizational review are all part of the presentation. Our strategic plan contains 8 areas from leadership down through knowledge management. We'll also talk about a few of the challenges and successes that we've experienced here through the year. Some of the assumptions we have to begin with anytime we look at a year-long review and a year preview looking ahead are we're going to assume funding trends remain the same in terms of local property tax, that student enrollment trends remain as predicted, which are, I would say, moderate to high currently. We're averaging a little over 100 students growth per year over the last 3 years. And law changes, and the legislature is in session currently, that those don't cause instability for schools. So we're going to make the assumptions that all three of those hold true here. And the purpose, as I mentioned, is to memorialize our present state, but also it creates some benchmarks for us as we look forward into 2025. Our vision statement remains the same, everyone, every day, high standards, high achievement. Around our core values, empathy, excellence, initiative, integrity, personal growth, and responsiveness. Our mission statement, that's a little over a year old as we reworked that here in the recent past. We commit to maximize our students' success through personalized experience so they make a difference in any community. Our planning process is a multi-year strategic plan. Our current planning process includes regular review by our advancement team, a monthly review by our administrative team, monthly system-to-system meetings, and a lot of stakeholder input and feedback through focus groups and surveys. In fact, as we're working with a consultant here in our career coaching model and our portrait of a learner model, he was a bit, I say, taken back or pleased with the amount of stakeholder survey input we've had here at the district to use for data purposes. Our workforce totals now at 440 part-time and full-time folks that work for us here in the district, 185 of those on the certified side and 255 of those on the classified support staff side. We have, in recent years, we have added a lot of folks in the PACE area, Little Warrior Learning Center, and some of those support areas for students. And our demographics, and this picture tells a lot. This shows our enrollment over time, and you can notice here in the last 3 years we have a significant upward trend that does follow with our demographic study very closely. Demographics broken out, this is where you see quite a bit of change. You begin to see a lot of change here in our diversity structure as you look across those areas of ethnicity. We see increases in the free and reduced lunch percentage. We see continued increases in our special education percentage. And the biggest increase we see is in our English language learners percentages. Those used to be down kind of the 1% or less for several years. Those have spiked up very significantly here in the last 2 to 3 years. Just last year we were at 123 English language learners in our student population. We are currently at 208. So we've seen a big trend upward just this year. And now we're going to move on to learning systems, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Walker to present that portion.
Okay. All right, let's talk about some learning systems here. Okay, so we have our key performance areas. We have a lot of goals that we are always looking to achieve, and these are actually goals that we have set internally as a group based on not only schools that are near us, maybe other county schools, but also schools that look like us. And so these are all stretch goals that we have set in looking at not only state averages, because we're always ahead of those state averages, but also stretching ourselves to the next level. So we have a lot of KPIs here, a lot of goals, so I'll try to go through these fairly quickly here. Some of this data is from the GPS, the Graduates Prepared to Succeed system. Some of it is a little bit of lagging data as they put some of the information on their site, so we try to keep it as up to date as we can here. So goal number 1 is mastering early literacy skills. So we use our in-class assessment at North to look at that, and so we are at 81%, which is great, getting a little closer up from 79% last year, so keep moving toward that 85% there. Goal number 2 is on iRead 3, and as you guys know, we set a high number for ourselves at 97%, and we were even higher than that. So we had a score in the top 1% in the state, which we were very happy about this last year. Goal number 3 is that 60% of our students will pass the math iLearn assessment. So we were at 54.2%. Last year, again, way above the state average, but that's a stretch goal, and we're going to keep working until we get there. Our goal number 4 is on our ELA iLearn, and so 55% is our goal there. And so we were at 49 this last year. Goal number 5 is 65% of students will meet the English benchmark on the SAT. We were at 61%. So again, these are our stretch goals based on where we performed. Goal number 6 is our math state performance on the SAT. That state average is very low at 25%. So we're doing way higher than that state average. It's crazy to think that 38% is way higher than the state average, but we have a goal even to get up higher than that at 50%. Continuing, our goal 7 is students in grade 12 that will have completed advanced coursework. So maybe passing an AP class. We do not have IB classes here, but we do have dual credit classes here during high school. And so we're always looking to, I think, add a little bit more of that. We're adding the Indiana College core classes coming up here for our high school students, which I think will help this percentage quite a bit, actually. Goal number 8 is that 80% of our grade 8 students will earn credit in high school courses. You'll notice that the state average is like 48%, and we are almost double that. So we're at 82%. A lot of our middle school kids are getting high school credits, which we feel like helps to sort of prepare them for high school, gives them a little taste of high school classes, and also helps to free up their schedule once they get to the high school. So that's great. Goal 9, we have a goal that 95% of our senior students will complete all their graduation requirements. Our state data is not updated for this is time.
Battery.
Keep talking in the hope that.
We should be able to pick you up.
Okay. So our graduation requirements. So the state data, they actually take multiple years and put them together for our graduation requirements, but our last number there was 91.3, so a little bit of bump here to get that one up. Goal 10 is our attendance rate. So you'll notice we were at 72.9%, which is interesting to us. Our goal is 80%, but I think even higher than that. I think that we have some things in our attendance plans we're starting to kind of look at for next year to see if we can do a better job of getting students here to school. That's a big one for us right now. And then goal 11 and 12 are our stakeholder goals. Those are based on our end of the year surveys that we give to our staff and we give to our parents, and that is the number of stakeholders either way that rate us as high quality. So we have high percentages there, but I think there's always room to grow, especially that parent number to get that up a few percentage points here. So these are the goals that we're talking about in our data team meetings at least every 2 weeks, if not more than that, and tracking as we go through. There are a lot of slides here, and so I'm just sort of highlighting a few things on each slide. So you'll notice the things in red are the things I'm going to kind of mention, and there may be some things there in black that we're kind of rushing through and you have in front of you. So curriculum, some of the major things going on this year are a continued revision of our common curriculum. So we are utilizing our PLC time. We have curriculum instruction software that we're using in order to update our standards, and so there's been a lot of continued work there. And this year we're reviewing our elementary, our K-5 reading materials for adoption. We're just getting into the thick of presentations on site with some of these companies and review work. So those will be in place starting for next year. Professional development sort of tied into that. Our science of reading training, I think, has been vital in ensuring that our teachers are prepared to select a new text based on the science of reading. And so that has been something that I feel like we've done a really good job of giving our staff a lot of information on the front end so that they're prepared to pick the best materials moving forward. One of the highlights of my year every year is Induction Junction. That's IJ. That is our new staff professional development that we do before each school year for all of our new staff coming in, no matter if they're veteran teachers or new to teaching. So we've got checklists for mentors and mentees that they do throughout the year.
They complete 2 full days of observations in classrooms, and so it's a really good program that not only starts before the school year, but also kind of continues that. Evaluation and assessment, I just sort of highlighted, there are so many assessments that we are constantly giving. So we've got in-class for our little ones and NWBA, we've got COGAT, which is a high ability assessment, we've got iLearn checkpoints, which are new for us this year, we are piloting. Those have gone really well, and I think we've learned a lot of things in this pilot year to use going forward. We've got an IAM test for students with severe cognitive disabilities, our IRE3 test, our PSAT, our SAT, and our WIDA for EL students. So we have a lot of tests going on all the time. Course and program offerings, a lot of these have come through you guys as a board. But I think that one of the highlights was adding preparing for college and careers at the middle school. I think that's been a really great addition. Again, it gives students another opportunity to take a high school class before they get to the high school, but it also has allowed them an opportunity to look at various career paths earlier in the education journey. It's just a really fun class for kids, and we've gotten some really good feedback. Okay, we're continuing with some of our special populations.
Voice assist.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back. So our alternate education program, our Warrior Way Academy had 57 students enrolled during semester 1, so that's awesome. They were up 26 students from the same time in 2023. They awarded 131 credits during this time, which is up from 46 credits the year before at this time. They are rocking it up there. And one of the neatest things is they use Edgenuity software up in our All Ed program, and we're going to be using that software this summer. And so giving kids more opportunities for credit recovery. So I think it's a good use of the software so that we can utilize it year-round since we are paying for that software. Our Title I numbers, I know you saw this a little earlier, but looking at our poverty rates, you'll notice the 3 columns. We've got like the 22-23, 23-24, 24-25 rates. And so you'll notice there's just been a very steady increase in those poverty rates from year to year in each one of our buildings. And so we're putting, we've got additional students that need support. We've got additional students with academic gaps. And so just trying to fill those in. But I thought these numbers were very interesting. High ability, we have a lot of things going on, but one of the most interesting things on here, I know that Mrs. Snow highlighted was we have 18.9% of our students right now that qualify for high ability. So we're getting kids into the program and getting them the services they need, which is amazing. Our special education program, those numbers are up as well. So we've got 541 students currently. One of our largest challenges is always significant increases in dysregulated students. We have a lot of physically aggressive behaviors, and so just dealing with those in all of our buildings, and especially at the younger grade levels. We have one of the successes that Mrs. Lacey highlighted was we've met all indicators through the DOE in our results-driven accountability. So that is a great celebration there. And improvements from last year to this year, we do have a special education teacher for every grade level, all the way, actually, this is K-8, but actually through the high school in a roundabout way because we have 4 at the high school as well. And so that's been really good because every grade level has a dedicated person that really knows the teachers and the standards and the way that things run at every grade level. Our EL population, I know that was one that Dr. Schaefer had pointed out earlier. It is growing. We do have 2 full-time EL teachers currently serving 208 students. And just to see those numbers from 22 to 23 to 24 to 25, they are increasing quickly. And so while you may look at the percentage and think, 7+% is not huge when you think of a whole population, it's coming quickly for us. And so we've been able to make some really quick changes. Both of our EL teachers are going through their certification programs. And so we've got 2, high quality teachers in these positions as we're growing. So that's been great.
It seems to me like 67% of our new students, we have about 152 students from last year, and we grew by 99 students in our ELL program. So 2/3 of our students that are new are coming into this ELL program? Do
Many.
we think that that's going to continue at that high of a percentage?
I do think so, and I think that because a lot of our county schools are having sort of these same conversations, and so when we talk to schools in Plainfield and in Avon and Brownsburg, and we see the ways that their numbers have grown recently, and I think those populations are just sort of making their way out here. I do think we'll continue to see an increase as we go, but yes, a lot of our new students that have come in qualify for EL services.
So I mean, it's reasonable to think that we could be at 320 next year.
We could. That would be a whole lot. But we're already starting to look at numbers and trying to plan ahead for staffing. And, what does that look like as we keep continuing to increase? But I do see the numbers continuing to go up. Yeah. And just sort of overall in general education trends, we've got new graduation requirements for the class of 2029. So those are our current 8th graders coming into the high school. And so just looking at what the options look like, course offerings for those kids, and some additional career readiness and internships and some of those types of opportunities. Challenges with additional students comes additional staffing needs. So we're being strategic and we're prioritizing needs, but they don't just come into one grade level all at the same time. That would make it a lot easier, but they're in every grade level. And so you have staffing needs that pop up all over the place. And so we're really being strategic about looking at needs, looking at numbers, and where should we place staff so that we get the most bang for our buck. And then when do we know, okay, we know once we get to then a certain number, then we'll have another staff member that we'll need to add down the road. So strategic there. And then one of our successes that I feel like will really take us far into the trends is our career coaching grant that we were awarded. So that's added resources and networking opportunities. We had a meeting actually today at CISC down in Indy to talk with other school districts about some of this career coaching, the new graduation requirements, and how we get ahead of that game. So I feel like we're on the front end of that when I talk to folks from other school districts. That was a lot. Education, but I'm turning it over.
No, before you go,
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Walker, I have a question about the goal slides.
Yeah.
On goal 8, the 80% of grade 8 students will earn high school credit for entering 9, and then it looks like our results are 82.7%. What types of courses are those students earning credit in at that 82.7% success rate?
We have Algebra 1. We have now Honors Biology that we've moved. We have the Preparing for College and Careers that we've moved. We have a 2D art class there. We have Spanish 1. We have French 1. Did I miss any?
Ag, it is ag
Uh-huh.
high school?
Okay.
Class?
I don't think ag's a high school.
No, the Intro to Ag. Yeah.
So are those classes that don't depend as heavily on the success rate related to goal 3 and 4, related to math and ELA iLearn, where our success rates are, our goals are 60% and 55, and our result is 54.2 on math and 49.6 on ELA. Can you speak to the disparity between the success we're seeing on ELA testing, but yet you mentioned a few courses in there that I would think that would play heavily into needing those skills in math and ELA iLearn to be successful in those high school courses being earned?
Yeah, I really think that's a good question because we have really great iLearn scores, and we have scores that have been in the top 10% of the state very consistently. So I think what's great about our team is I think that we could set a goal that is easy to check off and is way above the state average and keeps us in the top 10%. We've set stretch goals for all of our iLearn. And so those were goals specifically where we said, hey, let's take some of the top schools in the state, and why can't we get there too? So I don't see it being a lack of success as much as we've really set stretch goals for ourselves in the hopes that, like, hey, why can't we be number 1?
Okay, I just wanted you to speak to that because when somebody might look at the presentation,
Sure.
the disparity between those results versus what we're doing, and with 8th graders, I think sometimes isn't a fully told story there.
Yeah, makes sense.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. What's here? All right, so we're gonna talk about facilities here real quick. Again, this would be the areas that Mr. Land manages. Some of the challenges that we've had this year are our new FMX process and getting the inventory, getting a lot of the mechanical things in there that we've discussed. We do have the service and the work order part of that completed. The scheduling is completed with the calendar, but we're still working on getting that fully implemented with, again, inventory, mechanical things, so that way it'll make our work process a little bit quicker. Success, again, we have our new transportation facility, as we talked about this evening, getting ready to start here in the next upcoming summer. As we move into our technology support, Mr. Rader's done a good job with the support that he offers to our staff, with reflected there in the survey results, having a 4.41 out of 5 here over the past year, and with the average response time down to 5.9 hours, which was down from 7.8 hours last year. So getting good response and getting it done quickly to make sure that we're keeping all of our staff up and running when it comes to technology. When we talk about our infrastructure here, again, what has been trending is the construction, the interactive panels that you've seen that have gone in at South, that will continue to go into the new classrooms once we move to the high school, as we will have those up and running for the new classrooms next year. But some of the challenges that we're also seeing are just budgetary costs. That will probably become a theme throughout the presentation here. But trying to make sure that we have the most up-to-date software, that our teachers are requesting, that we have the dollars that we can be able to afford those. Again, back to the successes that we've looked at is just the construction improvements that we've seen at South with the new AV equipment, the interactive panels, the teachers, the voice augmentation devices that they're wearing, which allows them to not yell as much so that their students can still hear them and be able to hear them throughout the classroom there. So those have been some good improvements that we've seen through technology. When we talk about our marketing here, we have 32 e-newsletters that were created since January of 2024. That includes construction updates, several FMX announcements about the transition from our previous calendar to FMX, with over 21,000 views. When we look at the challenges, it's how quickly and how easily misinformation can be found on social media. You can go find it pretty much anytime, anywhere. So again, that is a challenge to making sure that we're getting out in front of that with the most accurate and up-to-date information to kind of squelch any rumors before they were to get started. Our Parent Square contractability rate up to 99.3%, where we have over 5,000, almost 5,500 parents who are on the Parent Square app using that program, which is our main form of communication to our staff to our staff and parents and students. As we look here at our human resources, again, continuing to be more efficient salary placement schedules. We'll discuss that here in a little bit here today. Some of the challenges, obviously lacking substitutes in not only classroom teachers that we've seen recently with just the flu kind of going around predominantly, but also with our bus drivers. That's been a continuing issue that we have talked about. We'll say that we're striving to make sure that we continue to combat that. We're getting in a better position, but that is always a challenge that we're going to face for about the near future. Then some of the successes, we did have a lower increase this past year in our insurance costs. That was going to essentially what our employees pay for the health insurance that they receive here at the district. Transportation, again, over 1,700 average miles that we drive per day. So we do a lot of driving here in the district. Again, like I just mentioned, our biggest challenge there is just driver shortage and trying to find replacements. Dr. Schaefer likes to always say we seem to be always N-1. So whatever we need, we're -1. Whether we're hiring, whatever's going on, we seem to find everybody and then something happens and someone else moves on. So continuing to try to get that log of drivers kind of in the pipeline so that we can try to prevent that and limit that as much as possible so that way we can try to reduce the amount of routes that we're having to cancel. Obviously, that's the last thing that we would ever like to do. We obviously have better forms of communication with our parents, with our schools, with our staff. That not only comes through just the communication itself, but I would also say through the tools that we're using to communicate, specifically like with the Stop It app that we're using to communicate with our parents, to be able to tell them and to communicate more of a bus specific if there's anything that's happening that day. As we talk about food service, again, some of the challenges here are actually you can see how many meals that we serve per day. We're averaging here in the first semester just about 1,800 meals that we're serving for lunch and about 925 for breakfast. Again, you're going to hear the same thing. Some of the challenges that we have in food service and just our staffing. Stephanie does a great job of working with what she has and trying to make sure that she has all of her spots filled. But again, we could always use more subs that we've got to be able to fill in when we have sicknesses and things like that going around. Some of the successes that we looked at over the last year here, we were one of 5 schools that were nominated by the IDOE to represent Indiana at the USDA Action for Healthy Kids Summit last fall in Las Vegas. So Mrs. Stumpke was able to go and participate in that. To be able to get good ideas, to be able to increase her knowledge, be able to increase her cooking abilities, I guess, and meal planning that she uses for our students. So that was a great recognition for her to be able to go do that, at which they paid for, so we didn't have to pay for any of those costs either. So that's always a big deal too. A couple pictures here of just the meals and how many meals that our staff is preparing here on a daily basis, and then a couple of the newer coolers. The one on the far left there you can see is at the middle school, and then salads have become a big hit for our students at South this year. They were really surprised at how many salads they're going through, with that being about 120 that they're making every day, and the students are sitting to love those. As we talk about PACE, our latchkey program here, obviously some of the challenges that we have are that we do still have a wait list for our North students, so our K-1 students. That typically is the kind of the age group that fills up the fastest. And so again, trying to find the space that we could look for to increase that. And some of the improvements that she's made over the last year is they were able to maintain the competitive pricing, but also continue to grow and boost the enrollment of our latchkey program. Little Warrior Center, they currently have 124 preschoolers. Again, some of the challenges that they are facing would be the trauma, the mental health, a lot of some of the same issues that Mrs. Walker discussed when we just talked about our special ed program. But again, with the program, some of the successes they've also had is just the growth of the program. Waiting lists are already happening, and we have just sent that out as far as getting signed up for the next school year. So again, both Little Warrior and both PACE, our kind of early school programs, are thriving right now, both operating in a positive financial situation as well. Again, we talk about maintenance and custodian. Again, challenges, just taking care of the workload. Again, always looking to find if there's areas where we need to add staff. Obviously, when we look at the expansion of some of the buildings, that's going to require some additional staff at certain levels and at certain times. So trying to work through and making sure that we're doing that adequately. But at this current time, we're currently fully staffed. We'll knock on wood. That might change here in the next 10 minutes, but as of right now, we're good. And so, again, Mr. Land has done a great job with his maintenance and custodial staff. We're talking about safety and emergency planning. So some of the trends that we've looked at here over the last year is the Secure Passage Behavior Threat Assessment software. This is something that Chief Oliphant has rolled out that's allowed us to be able to track when we have a threat assessment. It gives us one central location, so that way we can make sure that we're tracking it and that we are following up with the students on a regular basis just to make sure that they're safe for not only the schools but for themselves as well. Chief Oliphant does a great job of doing follow-ups and different things like that. Obviously, this past year we've been able to complete our goal of having one SRO at each one of our buildings. So we do have that where we have an SRO at every single one of our buildings. So that's been a great success that we've had here for the last year. And now we'll move into finance a little bit. So again, a lot of this we've talked about in the past. Cash balance at 16.89% in the ed fund, 15% with transfers, with transfers. Minimum teacher salary increased to $52,000 this past year. Again, we continue to see the challenges of increasing teacher compensation, just based with the money that we continue to bring in, with also our student growth, knowing that we need to add staff as well. But it also can having adequate fund balance for the projects as we continue through, and making sure that the debt service does not have any negative impact on our taxpayers. And then again, the final goal is just to maintaining a strong cash balance in our education, operations, and rainy day. A couple of the successes that we look at there, we have had stable cash balances. Our debt service rate we've brought down a little bit more, and we continue to do that. It's actually come down on just a little over 2 cents in the last 2 years. We've increased teacher compensation by 3% and support staff by 3%. And if you look at our overall tax rate, we've actually come down over 10 cents since 2023. So really just in the last 2 years, we've been able to lower our total tax rate by more than 10 cents. And I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Schaefer.
I have a question. On the safety emergency planning, under the successes, it says we have 4 additional Indiana school safety specialists. Does that mean each of you got that certification, or we added 4 people?
We've added more people at each building. So all of our officers are certified with that, but then we continue to add staff.
So those aren't necessarily SORs, those are people who have gotten other certifications.
Correct.
To assist with the safety
Correct.
plan. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for Matt. How does one use a vape detector at the middle school? What is this contraption?
How we use it, we haven't got it yet. I'm working on it.
Chief Oliphant, could I have you come to the mic, please? That Mr. Herbert has.
So to give you the short story, it's like a smoke detector.
Yeah, it's basically just a detector in the ceiling that's connected to our Mercado system. So if there's someone vaping, we put in for a grant, we most likely will get it for this building, and they'll have one in every bathroom. So if someone's vaping in the restroom, it'll send that alert to the administration.
Okay. So it's not like something that detects it in their pocket. They have to use
No,
it.
it has to have the odor. Yeah,
Okay.
it has to have the vape.
Cool. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
There you go.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Gonna take it home quickly here. The last area of our strategic plan is knowledge management and results. In other words, what do we do with those results? How do we manage the information? And I'm happy to say we've made good progress this year on making sure we have key performance indicator metrics for all the metrics we need to track. We have been using our achievement software to monitor that. You've seen the dashboards that were developed this year to support the strategic plan and the board's goals. So that's been a process and progress that we've finally gotten there. We're pleased with that. So we have that public-facing piece now that people can see, and we can track that. And when we make changes in the plan, those changes are automatically updated in the dashboards that are located online on the district website. So our key focus areas for 2025, one area that's an academic one are those graduation pathways that are going to be deployed with work-based learning. That's part of the career coaching model we're working on, part of the portrait of a learner process we're working on. Goals and strategies from that will be embedded into the strategic plan, which will get a little bit of efficiency to it. You saw 8 areas in our strategic plan. We're going to take that down to 4 areas by combining some of those areas together, weeding a few things out, and then putting in that new information that I just mentioned that's related to work-based learning. We also want to continue to work on our teacher attraction and retention. Obviously, with our building renovations and additions, that will be a key focus area for us moving forward here through the next year plus. And then having that growth mindset, preparedness, some of the challenges and opportunities that brings, and then continue to work on our budget efficiency. And just in summary, here are some really nice successes that have happened over the last year. Some nice successes by some of our staff members, teachers, individual students, And then all of our students together, when we look at our third grade kids with that 98% pass rate, again, just the list goes on with the number of accomplishments our kids have made with teacher support, and then teachers themselves doing some really nice things here in the district to distinguish themselves and distinguish the district. That is the end of the presentation. I'll be happy to answer any remaining questions that you may have. Mrs. Walker, Mr. Herbert, where are you at today? Okay, we'll move on then. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schaefer. All right, the next item on the agenda, consider approval of minutes for the regular board meeting on January 13th, 2025. So I can have a motion to approve those minutes as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. All in
All
favor?
right,
The next item on the
Aye.
agenda. Any opposed? Consider approval of minutes for the regular board meeting on January 13th. That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, consider approval of minutes of the board finance meeting on January 13th, 2025.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hensel. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, consider approval of minutes for public work session from February 5th, 2025.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hensel. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving right along, next item on the agenda, Treasurer's Report, Mr. Herbert.
Thank you, Mrs. Cherry. For January, we had fund balance in the property and state tax supported funds of $8,462,518. We had educational fund expenditures of $2,160,255. We had no expenditures in our debt service fund, and our operations fund had expenditures of $919,858. We transferred $175,000 from the education fund to the operations fund, and that brings our total corporation's total transfers for the year to 9.05 of the total education fund revenue and 9.56% of the total state tuition support. One thing to note is the higher totals here for expenditures in both the education fund and the operations fund were due to a 3 payroll month this month. So that's why those are a little bit higher than you typically would see. So more than happy to answer any questions and would ask for the board's approval of our January financial report.
Motion to approve Treasurer's Report as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Comments or questions?
Just to point out something I observed, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Herbert, but compared to February of last year, the transfer of the total percentage is down from education to ops at this point.
Yeah, it was down just because of January being the 3 payroll month. So I didn't move as much over just to try to help cover some of those expenses to kind of, again, even out the swing of the spending that we see.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, consider approval of payroll claims, Mr. Herbert.
Payroll claims are just a regular claims.
Oh, sorry. Approval of claims.
Okay.
My eyes jumped.
That's okay.
Apologize.
So yeah, here for the month, we have pre-written claims of $565,103.31. We had traditional claims of $569,917.87, bringing our total claims for the month to $1,135,021.18. These are the claims here for the month of January. Again, I would be happy to answer any questions and ask for the board's approval.
Motion to approve claims as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hensel. Comments or questions?
Can you explain a little bit more the information you have in the executive area there that talks about the rebate payment? We missed the spend down in July.
Yes.
How did we miss a spend down?
So that is the dollars that we have to spend. And so this was for our 23 GO bond. So this would be for any of the bonds that we are issuing, whether it's a GO bond or a leasehold bond. So this is specifically for the 23 GO, which is earmarked for our athletic building that we are working through in the master campus plan. Because of just the timing of where that building was progressing, we did not have enough expenses to be able to pay for that. And so therefore, the way that the IRS states is that if we are earning more interest on our money that we have versus what we're paying, then we have to pay it back. So again, that drives me nuts.
So we're kind of
but-
being penalized by the IRS then,
Yes.
because we aren't spending money,
We're not spending it fast enough, correct. But I will say
we're
what
being too
our,
frugal.
yes, what our attorney told us was look at the positive side of it, and that is that we did earn $228,000 in interest in that time period, and we only had to pay back $20,000 of it, which I said that was still $20,000.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, approval of payroll claims, Mr. Herbert.
Thank you, Mrs. Cherry. We have 3 claims here for the month. We have our January 17th claim of $731,495.74. We had our January 31st claim of $804,587.85, and a January 31st claim of $54,514.24. This brings our total payroll claim for the month to $1,590,597.83. So I would ask for the board's approval on our payroll claims for the month of January.
Motion to approve payroll claims as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Comments or questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is consider approval of personnel recommendations, but before we jump into that, the board wanted to share with the community that per Dr. Schaefer's superintendent contract, that we did perform his annual evaluation in December. This is an extensive review that addresses many areas of responsibility, and we are pleased to announce that he was found to be highly effective per our matrix. He will receive a 2% increase in 2025. This pay increase is consistent with the lower end percentage of pay increases that teachers receive for 2025. Thank you, Dr. Schaefer, for your continued professionalism as you lead Danville Community Schools. And we're looking forward to a great 2025.
Thank you to the other members of the board. Thank you.
All right, so moving on to consider approval of personnel recommendations. Dr. Schaefer.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Cherry. I recommend approval of the personnel report as it was presented. Just noteworthy, we have 5 of our longstanding teachers that have announced their retirement here prior to February 1. We appreciate them and the careers they put in, and also appreciate them giving us early notice, as teachers are kind of hard to come by, and we are glad to have had great teachers such as them for a period of time, and also looking forward to being able to hire some new teachers coming in for this next year. I recommend approval of the personnel report.
Motion to approve the personnel report as submitted.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hempsel. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, consider approval of Transportation Director Dr. Schaefer.
Yes, thank you. I am recommending Mrs. Christina Swanson as our new Transportation Director to the school corporation. Mrs. Swanson has been a substitute driver, a regular route driver, a transportation coordinator, and since November 14th of 2024, our interim Transportation Director. And in her capacity, Mrs. Swanson has already improved our transportation communication and is actively working to increase our drivers and routes. I recommend approval of her. She's doing a nice job for us. I know she's been driving for us some, is a little bit under the weather as well, and I know she's been handling a lot and doing well with it. So I wholeheartedly recommend her appointment to the full-time position.
Motion to consider approval of Transportation Director as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hempsel. Comments or questions?
Shouldn't there have been an internal transfer or change in position form completed and submitted with the recommendation?
We do, and I apologize. I just noticed that here this evening. Originally this was in the full personnel report, and I pulled it out to bring that separately, and we did not get the form to accompany with it. Her pay rate is the same as what we've been paying for the interim position, which is the full amount.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, consider approval of classified salary schedule. Mr. Herbert.
Thank you, Mrs. Cherry. In an effort to streamline operations and enhance efficiencies, I'm recommending the implementation of a new pay scale for our food service and custodial staff. The purpose of this aims to create a clarity in pay structure, provides opportunities for professional growth, and remain competitive and attractive in retaining talent. The proposed framework introduces 3 pay ranges for each department, taking into account factors such as years of service, previous job history, and reference checks for the new hires. For current employees, the transition to this new pay scale would be based on their current pay. This model ensures fair compensation and introduces opportunities for promotions based on performance, which will foster a culture of growth and boost morale across all departments. The pay scales there are listed. Additionally, we would like to discuss the differential pay for the employees who have moved into a supervisory role, either on a permanent or temporary basis. The way that this is done right now is they receive a differential pay based on that job function and that job title. This approach simplifies payroll and ensures appropriate compensation for employees taking on additional responsibilities. This is a change, as before, this was going to be a recommendation to approve. However, I want to move this and feel that we need to maybe take a pause at this time to gain further clarification on the potential legislative impacts that would have to our operations fund. Once we have a more clear direction, I think we can bring this back for additional consideration. Again, this is some of the things that we have talked about in our previous meeting on Wednesday, where we talked about the potential impact to our operations fund based on what legislative changes might come out of this session. And this, again, is something I feel that we can take a pause for a month here or so till we get a full understanding of what's going to happen. I just don't feel comfortable bringing this forward knowing that what we've talked about potential impacts to our operations fund could be. So with this, I would ask for the board's approval of the pay scale for our custodial staff and our food service staff, and then open it up for any further conversation or discussion about the supervisory roles, or more than happy to act however the board would see fit. So again, more than happy to answer any questions, but would ask right now for the approval of the pay scale and then a pause on the supervisory roles.
All right, a motion to consider approval of the classified salaries schedule pay scale, excluding the supervisory roles.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hempsel. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Any comments or questions?
Just for my clarification, because of the title of 7.3 being classified salary schedule, and then you made comment that it's related to food services and custodians.
Correct.
The schedule does not relate then to the other departments that are classified staff.
Correct. We will work through those as we go throughout the year. These are our 2 largest job families that would have the biggest impact. So yes, this would be just for our food service department and our custodians.
So then, just for clarity, couldn't we have presented it as salary schedules for the departments of? I mean, because again, somebody might see that and see classified salaries, and again, if you said staff is all-inclusive. Classified salaries seem to be all-inclusive, but yet it's not really what it is.
Sure.
At this time. So unless they come and watch the video, I think it could get a little bit misconstrued.
Sure. Yep.
So that's my only comment in terms of trying to be straightforward as we can about it.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
I don't know.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Consider approval to void outstanding checks. Mr. Herbert.
Thank you, Mrs. Cherry. Indiana Code 5-11-10.5 requires that school corporations annually void any outstanding checks that are at least 2 years old. These checks were issued from the corporation's account, food service account, ECA accounts of all 4 of our schools. So I would ask for the board's approval in the cancellation or the voiding of these checks so that we could have these dollars put back into the funds that they came from.
Motion for approval to avoid outstanding checks as submitted.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hensel. Comments or questions?
In the spreadsheet that you have, you list totals by certain areas, but overall, what is the total of all these in that spreadsheet?
I should have that for you, but I can do it over here real quick.
Not much.
About $2,400.
One more. 2430.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, consider approval of resolution for flexibility waiver. Dr. Schaefer.
Yes, before the school district can apply to the Department of Education and the State Board of Education for a performance-based accreditation waiver under the previous House Bill 1003, the governing board must first pass a resolution authorizing the superintendent to pursue the waiver. So pending the board's approval, the waiver that I'll be applying for is the waiver of instructional days, which are seat time minutes. The waiver allows us to bank our excess minutes and provide student release time as needed for professional development training. Our excess seat time per day accumulates to, I'd say, at least 9 extra days of instruction per year. We have typically used 3 to 4 of these days to allow for professional development release time, and we seek to not overuse those days once awarded. This is the same waiver we've submitted for the past, I'd say, 4+ previous years. Since the seat time waiver is an annual application process, we have to do this each year. The resolution includes a specific Indiana code we are asking to be waived along with the academic goals we are seeking to improve, the specific intended use of the waiver time, and the professional development of staff. So with that, I recommend approval. The performance-based accreditation waiver resolution is attached in your board packet for review.
Motion for approval of the resolution of flexibility waiver as submitted.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, consider approval of surplus obsolete equipment. Mr. Herbert.
Thank you, Mrs. Cherry. Before you, we have only one item that would be radios that Chief Oliphant was given to by Avon Schools. We've gone through these and we have used what we can, and we're also holding several of them back as kind of reserve or backup. But we would like to dispose of the rest of these because they have no value here to the district moving forward. So I would ask for the board's approval.
Motion to consider approval of surplus obsolete equipment as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Bryant. Thank you, Mr. Hensel. Comments or questions?
Can we re-gift the leftovers that you don't need?
There's options, yeah.
We're exploring options of what we can do with them, yes.
All in
Over.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, superintendent report. Dr. Schaefer.
You've probably had enough report for tonight, so we'll keep it short. Just a note that our Portrait of a Learner, our large focus group session of approximately 80 to 90 people, will be held February 25th. And we've reached out, I've sent 55 invitations out to the business and industry community to try to partner about 40 of those folks with 40 of our school people, which would include parents, students, teachers, staff members, admin. So we have a group of about 80 to 90 people that will work to identify the skill set we believe our graduates need upon graduation to be successful beyond graduation, to develop that skill set. And then we will vet the information from that session through another small focus group session March 17th. And that'll be a half-day session. We'll work across each school to get input from each school. And then on April 15th, we'll do another large group session to take those skills and divide those into goals and create goals to achieve those skills and how we do that academically within the school day and the school year. We'll then take those draft goals, and later then on April 28th, we'll go through a small vetting focus group session across each building again, just to clarify those, and then we'll then take the outcome of those goals and build those into our strategic plan and make some of the efficiency changes to the strategic plan that I'd mentioned earlier. So again, just a little update on that. Legislative bills, a couple I wanted to mention are Senate Bill 1, which has a lot of tax revisions in it. I believe, based on some of the legislative comments that are made by Indiana General Assembly leaders, I think that it does look like that bill is going to change a lot, which will be more palatable, I think, for cities, towns, schools, and other units of government. So we're looking forward to some of the changes we're probably going to see in that bill here moving forward. And then Senate Bill 518 is one that I want to call your attention to. This is a bill that proposes to take the pilots from South Bend, Indianapolis, Evansville, and Gary, where they're taking tax dollars, local tax dollars, and sending those to charter schools in those areas. This bill proposes to do that statewide, as it's written right now, which would be taking our local tax dollars and then sending those to charter schools if we would have students in the area that would be attending a charter somewhere. We're hearing that's going to get some amendments to it to change that quite a bit. There is hearing on that tomorrow, actually, before committee. So we're looking hopefully for better things to happen with that bill, because I don't think we want to see local property tax dollars here in Danville schools sent to charter schools and not come to the local public school.
Is that charter schools in our area, in our county, or would that be if a child in our district chose to go to a charter school? Where it follows the child.
Thank you. As I understand it, these would be local property tax dollars, not like state dollars, be more for capital needs. Those dollars would follow that child to whatever charter they would go to, although I do believe that virtual charters are right now currently excluded. We don't have that many we don't have that many students in the district that attend brick and mortar charters. We have a few that do attend online charters. But as it's written, that would happen to those brick and mortar charter schools, wherever they're at.
So does that bill account for when the money would follow the student? Because there's always that possibility that you get the student who starts off living in Danville, goes to a charter somewhere outside Danville, and then the second semester comes back to Danville because they're a resident here.
Correct. That's a great question. I don't know if I have a specific answer to it. I will tell you, with typical tuition support dollars, not necessarily capital dollars, but tuition support dollars, we go by 2 count days. So if a student were going somewhere else, first semester, came back prior to February 1st, when the second count would be, and they were here in enrollment, we would get those dollars for the second half of the year. How that's proposed in this specific bill for capital dollars, I don't know the answer to that. I could make some assumptions that it would be the same, but I honestly don't know how that is. But I do know, well, I'm understanding the bill's going to get amended to make some changes to this. We're certainly looking forward to that occurring.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is announcements. There will be no school on February 17th, 2025, as that is President's Day. Just a reminder that March 9th is Daylight Savings Day time, that it begins that day. Next regular school board meeting is March 10th here at the Danville Community Middle School in the district training room at 6:30. I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Ward. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Correct.